It is streaming, and then I'll mute myself and you guys can kind of go from there. Okay, cool. Looks good, just so you guys know. Not sure if you want to see on Clint, if you want to take a look on the reload the Twitch page, it should show that it's on.
Okay, I'm just trying to.
Oh. Ready when you are. It's rolling.
Oh, okay. Ray. Oh, I guess I should start. Hi, I'm Clint Imboden. I started Artists of the Resistance about a year ago because I was just completely fed up with all the energy being sucked out of the air by the idiot in Washington and all his little minions. And so I thought a good way of coming back was to give a voice to a set of artists that have usually only done things on their own. So this is my buddy from, I don't know, what, 20 years probably now? Since
I'd say at least, yeah, about 20.
Yeah. So a great artist, as you can see his new collage, gigantic work behind him. Again, Ray and I met through one of the very first high-end online galleries, nextmonet.com. He was on the board or looking for artists and saw some work I was doing at SF Camera Work in San Francisco, and our paths have crossed time and again since then. Ray is also the head of startup art fairs that show in San Francisco, LA,
Houston, Chicago
now. And so I've always loved his work. I think the first work that I kind of remember him seeing is I remember the toilet seat made out of sewn dollar bills together. It was one of the very first pieces that I saw of yours. And also maybe a shirt encased in wax in a briefcase, a dress shirt was another one that I remember. And that's
okay. Yeah.
Years ago, but so
yeah, older work.
We've known each other for a long time. I've shown with him 3 or 4 times at Startup. I would have been there with him this spring if it hadn't been for the virus. So my trusted assistant, Katie, thought this would be a way to give some good advertising to the site and to just have some conversations with artists that I've admired, and he was one of the very first people to agree to be part of AOR. So let Ray give you a little, if there's anything he can say that I haven't already talked about him, but Ray.
Hi, thank you. Thanks, Clint, for inviting me to do this. Am I supposed to give my bio, or like, what do you think's appropriate
Sure,
here?
a little bit. I mean,
okay.
Yeah, the political work. I mean, more than I think the recent work. I saw the Obey out of dollar bills, and then I've seen the blurry Obama and the blurry Trump that I saw. I think it was last year at Roots auction, and one sold even before the auction, so you graciously gave them another piece so they'd have something for the auction.
Yeah, good memory. Well, yeah, so my work is each project I do is different based on the idea. As you referred, I did a body of work for about 10 years called Counterfeit, where I remade famous works from the 20th century out of dollar bills, starting with Duchamp's Urinal, and I redid Warhol, Lichtenstein, Man Ray, Basquiat, you name the 20th century artist, Jackson Pollock. And so the idea behind that was really, it stemmed from being an artist interested in art history, but also being an educator. I was often impressed upon to speak about work in my classes, about the art historical importance of work, the art historical value. The conversations I would have about my work and other artists' work often would devolve into questions about the economic value. It seems like in this country, the bottom line is all we ever think about. And so I wanted to direct the conversation away from the obvious one about economic value to more about intrinsic value or historic value. And I thought perhaps kind of, it was started off as a goof, but I thought maybe if I made the work out of money, we could just get that conversation out of the way first and then just talk about the actual work. So I would basically counterfeit the work. The remakes that I did were exactly the same specs as the original, same size and dimension. They were just made out of money. And the money was real, the art was fake.
That's what I didn't think you literally counterfeited the money, but your bank must have gotten tired of you coming in and getting what, $100, $200, $300 at a time in $1 bills.
Yeah, no, that's a normal thing for most merchants to come in and get change. They had no idea. The people that didn't like it was the IRS, because when I got audited, I had to account for all the cash withdrawals out of my account, and my CPA had to go to the IRS audit and convince them that the cash withdrawals were for materials for my artwork. So he actually brought in a work of art, my catalog, and he had to convince them that was a legitimate business expense. And
obviously he did, because you're not in the slammer. So
yeah, I didn't know a lot of money. I didn't think I had a good chance though, because the name of the original IRS auditor was called King Kong. So I thought, oh no, I'm going to get destroyed. Anyway, so that's like an old body of work that you mentioned. You mentioned the 101 portraits. I did a bunch of pieces where I took the first 101 images that came up on a Google search under somebody's name, and then I kind of melded them together into Photoshop. I made them all 1% opacity, and then sandwiched them all together digitally and created this kind of meta portrait of the person over time. And a lot of the people that I made portraits of were political figures, like people like Ahmadinejad, Osama bin Laden, Putin, Trump, Obama, Bill Clinton, George Bush Jr., but then a lot of pop culture people. And that project was interesting to me because I just think what was interesting to me about that is when you really look at someone who's famous on the internet, you will come upon many, many different images of them. But when you put them all together, you realize how controlled their public persona is. Like if you get 100 images of Oprah, they are almost exact, to the point where, if you get 100 images of, I don't know, Tiger Woods, it comes out fairly blurry because he's playing golf in some and he's smiling in some, and no, Oprah's almost looks like one image. When you get 100 images compressed together, it looks like one perfect image. So it talks a little bit about the kind of media control that certain people have in their images, but also this idea that you can create a portrait that takes place over time, and that our images live on, on the internet forever.
Right.
So a portrait of Michael Jackson would be from the time he was 5 years old till he's 51 when he died. Sure. I just think that's really interesting to make one that encompasses all of his eras. Mm-hmm. That was a project. And then the other current project that you mentioned behind me is, again, kind of, I'm interested in art history, paying homage to, our forefathers as artists. And so all these collages are from portions of really famous canonical, mostly Renaissance paintings. And I'm just interested really less about ideas and more about kind of design elements that you find in those works: the color, the shape, the texture, the movement. So, but they've become kind of out of control. So now they're quite large, from little tiny ones to really giant
Right.
ones.
Yeah. You said what that the one behind you is what, like 6 feet across?
It's about 9 feet tall, and about 6 feet wide, maybe 8 feet
Okay.
wide, something like that.
We only see.
Yeah, you're not even seeing the
Oh
whole
no,
thing.
I'm not even seeing that. Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Okay.
There you go.
Huge.
And then what I do is I actually have them stand off from the wall on these metal posts about 6 inches, so it really kind of
So they
has a
actually
kind
look
of a
like they're
physical
floating.
presence. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, great. Again, I think one thing that you mentioned that ties to both of us some is that what we're wanting to do, or this message that we're wanting to send, is more important, as it dictates the materials that we use to accomplish that. You know,
Yeah, exactly.
all the new work of mine about Trump. I mean, you know, the puzzles. I mean, that just made perfect sense that they would be his tweets, because they're just silly and childish, and so, you know, and it just, you know, I mean, his stuff's
Right.
almost too easy at times, I think.
Almost
Because
at times.
what
is his work almost at times, you said?
it's almost too easy, because
Too
there's
easy,
just
yeah.
so much of it out there that you know, I really have to start, you know, I dig around for a while to find you know, to find the tweets or whatever I want. I just found just a black line illustration of him giving 2 signs, and put that on the back of a play school cobbler's bench, which are little old ones that had the little pegs, and the kids would hammer it on one side, then tip it over,
Yeah.
and then hammer it on the other side. So it has the shoe on one side, and you flip it over, and it's the illustration of Trump on the back. I mean, the minute I saw that at the flea market, I knew exactly what that particular piece was going to be, and so it just, you know. But then, as I said, you know, there's all kinds of stuff that, as you can see, the trash behind me, that lasts in my studio for years, and probably quite a bit of it's probably going to outlast me, and then my kids are going to have to deal with it. But they know what they're getting their hands into.
Maybe they'll donate it to another artist who will then turn it into more political work.
Yeah, that would be really cool. So, so how has staying at home change your practice?
My process and stuff? Yeah. Well, it's interesting. First off, you mentioned that I was running the fairs. Those completely stopped because of COVID. So, you know, we can't really hold a fair until at least next year. So my workload has significantly reduced, which gave me a lot of time to be in the studio. So my output has increased a lot. I don't know if the shelter in place has changed my outlook on my work. It's just given me a lot more time to dig into it. And so I've been able to do more things, bigger things. I've been able to go through ideas a lot faster. This particular body of work is less political than past bodies of work, like I mentioned before, but it's given me the freedom to play around with some other avenues within this genre of collage. I just haven't shown those yet, but I am definitely, this moment is seeping into the work, and we'll see how that plays out later down the line. I don't know yet if there's any immediate effect until.
No, I think for myself, because myself so material driven, is that the flea market's obviously dried up. They're starting back the one I go to almost daily, but you know, it's maybe still a third, and most of the junkers who I know and I buy from aren't the ones that are there. So people selling PPEs and clothes and stuff like that I really don't have any interest. So it's really caused me to really go back and dig through a bunch of stuff that I'd forgotten about. and materials. And then
Yeah.
I told you the portrait that I did for the Corona portrait. I'd never done a portrait of myself before. Obviously, this is a three-dimensional found art one that obviously, hopefully, doesn't look anything like me. But it was something that it's challenging myself to look at things maybe a little different because I'm stuck here. And
Yeah.
and I bought some material off of eBay, but it's just horrendously expensive for most of the stuff that I do. And so it's scrounging around at estate sales and the flea market, getting $1 for something that on eBay probably cost me $20.
Yeah, it's interesting that you should mention that, because I get a lot of my collage material from a place called Scrap here in San Francisco.
Okay, yeah.
And it's this big depot. You've probably been there. It's like
I haven't,
one in the East Bay.
But they partnered with what's the glass studio that's down
Public
in
Glass?
Public Glass a couple years ago, and had a competition that I won, but yeah, that's how I'm familiar with them. And I got to meet the director of time. I know she's gone off to bigger and better things, but I'm definitely familiar with them.
Yeah, I mean, and they're right around the corner from my studio, so I can pop in there anytime I want, and I get tons of art books and catalogs and magazines and things that I get all this material from. And I haven't been able to either give stuff to them because I donate a lot of stuff, or get stuff from them. So I've kind of turned to eBay to get catalogs and old books that I would normally pick up for $1. I got to spend, $10, $20, which is still cheap, but it's like it's definitely changed my sourcing practice, where I source things. And there's less of the opportunity for discovery now, because you just don't stumble on things. You have to search for things, which is good and bad. So that's kind of interesting. The one way, though, that Corona has kind of impacted, I think, my practice to some degree is I've spent a lot of time in my studio cleaning it up. So I've had, I cleaned my office. I've put everything into a database. I've gone through all my racks and my print drawers and thrown things out, and then documented things that weren't documented. But I've discovered things that I haven't seen in years. And I found this whole series of portraits of the presidents done with ground up money that I had sent off to the Museum of American Finance, and it came back like last year, but it had been gone for like 8 years. So I just put them in a closet and forgot about them, and I pulled them out. My daughter was helping me figure out what to do with them. The frames were messed up, so we pulled them all out, and I was just going to put them in my drawer, and then I was going to throw them away, actually. And Lana says, well, why don't you just put them in your drawer and keep them for a little bit? And then I thought, why don't I just give them away? So I gave them away as part of a promotion for Black Lives Matter. So anybody who donated $50 or more could get one of these. So they had to donate to one of the 4 organizations that I specified. And I raised $1,300 for 6 works of art.
Cool. Great.
Yeah, because a lot of people did matching with their companies. One person, and they bought a piece. They put $200 down to the Southern Poverty Law Center, but their company matched it 2 for 1. So it was a $600 donation. So it was great. So in that sense, this moment seemed ripe to take some work and leverage it for a good cause. So I was happy to be able to do that. It benefited me by getting rid of work I didn't really want to keep around that much, and people got some work that they liked for a pretty reasonable price. And then these organizations, we raised a little bit of money for them. So it was kind of a win-win-win all the way around.
No, I did it. I mean, Cheryl Haynes, I guess Ai Weiwei has done a whole series of face masks for just the really cheap little ones. And I saw one, it was, $50, and it was all going to go to somewhere honest. And so I said, that's, when am I going to get a piece of his work for $50? I mean,
right.
So it was going to a great cause. So what do you think drew you? Because I know you got your MFA from Mills, if I remember right, and
Right.
your undergraduate degree at the Art Institute, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Okay.
Correct.
What drew you to social kind of commentary art to start with? Because that's
Yeah.
kind of a small little niche, I think, for a lot of artists, because they want, you know, political work doesn't, it starts great conversations, but it doesn't sell a hell of a lot. But
Yeah. I think when I was going to the Art Institute at that time in the 80s, early mid 80s, that there was a lot of work being done that was content driven. And the Art Institute was really a hotbed of conceptual art. And so a lot of the people that I studied with were really ideas people. I studied with Jim Pomeroy and John Roloff and um, just a lot of really, I can't even remember all of my professors from undergraduate, but the work was really pushed in that direction. People didn't want to see just beautiful objects. They wanted to see ideas. They wanted to hear ideas and see them, concretized into objects. And so, but also I was interested in installation, and installation, you know, that kind of work lends itself to large scale installation. So I was incorporating a lot of video and kinetic objects, sound, and sometimes even performative elements into the work. And then when I went to Mills, it was just a continuation of that. And I studied with Jay DeFeo, and Roloff was there. Actually, he had moved over, and then people like Ron Nagel and Catherine Wagner. And they're all fairly, Catherine especially is pretty conceptually driven photographer. But I just, my practice was always driven by ideas, not necessarily political, but certainly, ideas that were socially relevant. I was very interested in the environment and very interested in corporate culture, how that affected the environment, and how corporate culture also influences politics. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
No, yeah. And again, I guess popped in my mind another body that I remember was your watching porn and getting stills of the art that's on the walls behind it. And I thought that was
Yeah.
a really an interesting way of looking at it,
Well, yeah, that was, all artwork is made from some kind of limitation. So when I got a tenured position teaching art at a local liberal arts college in the Bay Area, whose name I shall not mention,
Okay.
I was
You're
only there
not
for
there yet, still. All right.
I'm not there anymore. It was an awful experience, but I found myself commuting a lot and spending so much time doing other things other than teaching. This is the thing about, for all those kids out there that want to become art teachers and art professors, you better be careful what you ask for, because when you get it, it isn't always what you think. But I had 2 young kids. I was spending a lot of time commuting and teaching and being in faculty meetings. I had almost no time to be in the studio. And so I had done lots of digital projects, and I was trying to figure out what my next thing was. When I was making the counterfeit work, the way that I would make the patterns for the artwork is I'd go to the internet, I would source the image on the internet and make a positive or a negative of it, and then use it on a what do you call it? That one right there, a projector, and then outline it and then make a pattern. So I was looking up an Andy Warhol print of Maryland, and I saw one under Google image search, and it was weird because there was this woman standing in front of it with a whip and leather bodice, and it made me think, gosh, how many famous works of art could you find? I mean, you might find a fair number of works of art in hotel rooms.
Yeah.
And also prints, and then prints in people's houses. And where is amateur porn produced? usually in hotels, hotel rooms, and people's homes.
Sure,
And
right.
so I was just curious. I just started looking, just Googling, and then really looking, digging into amateur porn sites, looking for those kind of settings where you might find relatively well-known works of art. And so what I would do is crop out the porn and
Right.
just keep, as much as I could, feature the artwork. But still, you could tell there was like something going on. There might be top of someone's head or a leg sticking up,
Right.
and I loved it. So I was able to find like Starry Night and Warhol's Maryland and some David Caspar Friedrich paintings in the background of porn images, and I called that series Hot. You know, I always named each piece after the title of the email that I would get. You know, that was in the days where I would just get spammed with porn emails all the time.
Oh yeah.
Hot Asian ladies looking for love. So I would just use that as the titles. But it was kind of interesting. And then the funny thing about that job was, so I could search for all that on my laptop, which was a college laptop that was given to me as a professor or loaned to me. And so I don't know how many, you know, websites I must have searched, but I know that when I had to turn that laptop in, I was like, okay, you guys, I just want you to know this has seen a lot of porn websites for an art project that I was doing. Yeah, I'm sure they were not amused by that.
No, I bet not. So, yes,
Not to mention all the
startup.
viruses it probably created.
Yes, I bet
Anyway.
so. Yeah, that stuff was always supposed to be bad.
Yeah.
So what's on horizon?
For me, or for startup, or in general?
Well, both. I mean, obviously,
Yeah.
I suspect that, you'll do Del Sol in the spring
Yeah.
and LA in the fall.
No,
And
we're gonna do LA. We're gonna do LA in February, like we
okay,
did before. We'll
okay,
do San Francisco in the spring and April. If we can pull off Houston, because we're not going to do it obviously this year. We would do Houston in September.
okay.
So, yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to keep startup going so we can see another day with the fairs, because I know particularly San Francisco is very popular, and I would like to,
Oh, yeah.
make that happen.
I mean, the art you pick and the location, the Del Sol, it's so fun. As I think I told you, it reminded me of the hotel that I showed at a couple times down in Miami during
Yeah.
Art Basel there,
Yeah,
and
Aqua.
had a little courtyard, and it was just fun.
Yeah.
There was lots of activity and people just milling around. And Friday night, we're on nights we're usually open later than the big venues, so everybody would kind of end up at the place. And so I loved it. Yeah, and the Del Sol, I can't. Now that you've opened up the garage, that's
Yeah.
that's heaven to me.
Yeah, it gives us more room and more interesting space rather than a hotel room. We have those parking spots that we can do projects in and stuff, and they're very popular and very well trafficked because they're on the ground floor. Yeah, so that's kind of, I'm just trying to keep the business alive so that can happen next year. With my own work, I'm just I got a lot of time, so I'm trying to get it out there like everybody else. Yeah, that's it. I mean, I'm a fiend on social media right now. I've been trying to use it for all it's worth, because that's the place where people go to look at work. And I have to say that the blessing of COVID has been, there is an explosion of art on social media, because artists have time to make work and to be on there to show stuff.
Yeah.
And I know some people are up to here with it, but I can't get enough of it. It's great. I've gotten introduced to so many new artists. I've seen great new work from artists I've already known. I've reconnected with people. I've done some trades with people whose work I admire. It's been fantastic, and it's been a great consolation to not being able to really do a whole lot. At least we can connect on that kind of visual level with
Mhm.
really interesting work. And then people have been doing kind of cool, projects, online projects and collaborations. And, it's really forced us to rethink how we look at, buy, sell, promote, art.
Mhm.
And I think it's going to make some permanent changes to the art world. So
Absolutely.
I'm just trying to tap into that right now and try to pivot with it, because, we're going to be losing in the future, or at least in the short term. We're definitely going to lose galleries. There are museums that are closing. There's a whole swath of collectors that probably won't be able to afford to buy work. Always the top people are going to be fine, but there are those more emerging collectors that are really going to be hurting. So the question is, do we completely lose them, or do we find a different way to reach them with different price points? So I'm interested in all those things, both as an artist and as an art fair promoter. And I've just been fascinated by what's been happening online.
No, I would agree. And again, this is a product of it right now. So I'm really
Yeah,
curious. As I said,
yeah,
Katie,
this is a
put
great
some
idea.
time
I
on
love
it.
this.
Yeah. And so we'll just see where it goes. I mean, I think that, I'm supposed to go up to, I got accepted into the Vermont Studio Center in
Great.
October. And
Yeah,
so if we're not in the middle of a second or third wave, then,
right.
but yeah, I was thinking while there is keep doing this, but just kind of take an off ramp and just, what am I doing? Do it one day a week at the
Mhm.
same time, and just, I have no idea what I'm going to do there. I'm not going to take any material other than glue and some hand tools like I did when I went to Cuba, and just see what I find and what calls to me there. So,
Right,
you know,
right. Wow, yeah, that'd be great. I mean, and that's the thing about things being online. What we're going to see now is that people aren't going to be tethered to certain regions. They're going to be feeling free to go to live in cheaper places, to do their work wherever, and we can still connect virtually. I mean, we already knew that, but now
mhm,
we're actually practicing that a lot more.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Move out of the expensive Bay Area to maybe back to Missouri or something. I don't know.
I mean, I like my studio. I don't think I'm moving that soon, but I can see the attraction to it for sure.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, when houses,
some reasonable small town close to a bigger city, you
yeah,
could probably buy a whole building
yeah.
for, next to nothing. I mean, compared to prices here. And
One of the discoveries I made on Instagram was cheap old houses, which is a page that just does nothing but list amazing houses that are well under $100,000. Some of them are $60,000, $30,000. They're
oh,
in like bumfuck nowheresville.
yeah,
Unbelievable houses though, and people are eating it up. And I'm sure there's plenty of artists that are probably jumping on that.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, I don't know. We've done a half hour, well, 33 minutes or so. Anything else you would like to, pearls of
I don't-
wisdom you would like to?
How much time are we limited by time, or are we
Not
just?
really.
Yeah.
We were thinking like, half hour to 45 minutes, but no, we're not limited at all to time. So
Oh, okay. Yeah. Are there questions going on, or is this like
yeah, I
not?
don't obvious
You don't see any.
I didn't get, because I had not signed up for Twits yet. So while we were starting to come live,
Yeah.
I was trying to register very quickly. So I'm not there. So I have no idea of who or what, if anybody is out
Is out
there
there looking at us.
looking at us and
We're a
having
complete
these,
experiment.
yeah. So
Yeah.
hopefully by next week, then I'll at least have my Twits app up, so I'll see if there are how many people there are there. Oh, check the well, I can't check the chat. because my
Oh, I can check the chat.
yeah, because I just got a message from Katie that said, check the chat.
Let's see. Nothing in the chat. Okay. No one wants to ask us questions.
Okay.
That's fine.
Well, good. See, we're not missing anything.
Katie had
Only-
some nice questions that she gave me ahead of time, but I think we probably went over them.
Yeah. Those were
Talked
actually
about
my
life
questions.
guys.
skills. Oh,
You
yeah,
guys
they're
can-
good. I like them.
Yeah, it's easy to think of questions of people. I mean, people you know and art you're familiar with, and you know, again, the only thing missing right now is a beer and our other halves, and we would be
How do you know there isn't beer in here?
well. There could be,
Or scotch. There could be scotch in here.
could be.
Usually it would be
anything under the
scotch,
sun.
actually.
I had a beer earlier, but that
I had a coffee.
wasn't connected.
Did I hear Julian say something in my ear? I thought somebody said something.
Yeah. I do have some access to the chat. People were chatting about stuff. When she said check the chat, she meant just go to the URL for
On
the Twitch
Twitch.
page, and you don't have to log in. You can just read it from there without the login.
Okay.
That's yeah. So we
Well-
can work on that for next time. You know. Do you guys want to wrap it up for this one, and then?
Sure.
So what I'll do is I'll shut off the Twitch stream, and
Okay.
then we'll chit chat for a minute afterwards. Is that cool?
Okay.
Can I make a plug before we sign off?
Please do. Please do.
Absolutely.
All right. So I want people to know, who anyone who's listening to this now or later. My website is www.raybeldner.com. And if you want to know anything about Startup Art Fair, go to www.startupartfair.com. You can find out how to apply and where we do them and all that kind of stuff. You might even be able to see some of Clint's work on there.
Yeah, a couple pieces I've wrangled you into showing. So yeah,
Yeah,
no,
in our shop.
Mine, I mean, ClintImboden.com. I mean, it's pretty. I mean, we were early, I guess, early on, knowing that our names would at least be valuable to us, and
some ways.
and latched onto those early. I've got
Well, thanks
some
for
more,
having me, Clint. I'm loving this. This is a great idea, and I really want to see the next iterations. So I guess I'll have to. We'll have to sign on to Twitch to be able to see it.
I guess, or I did one on Instagram Live with a gallerist out in Lafayette. But see, this is something that would be perfect for you to talk to your startup artist. Have a different artist.
I got to get on it.
And chatting with them every week. That would seem like a no-brainer now. I mean, this is so simple.
Yeah.
And then again,
I will do
another venue on social media that that a whole different. This is supposed to be a lot of gamers and people. Obviously, people that would have never probably found either of our work on the internet, and so it's a win-win from square one. Okay, well, I guess I want to thank, if there's anybody watching. Again, this was Clint. I'm the founder of Artists of the Resistance. Ray Beldner has been a longtime friend and a artist that you can see some of his work on the AOR website. And we're planning on doing something again next Wednesday with somebody else from the website. So hope to see you guys then. I guess we're off.
Thank you.
Wait, hold on a second.
Oh, okay.